Did you know when I say, hey, would you like to have a refreshing sherbet? What do you think of?
Some kind of emulsified frozen fruit treat?
Yeah, it's like a processed fruit goo frozen into slush form.
Yeah,
like it's not creamy. It's not a sorbet. It's a icy. It's somewhere between an Italian ice or like a Flavo ice and a sorbet, right? That's what I get. Sometimes they come in multiple. You get like orange and red and green flavors all in one scoop.
I'm Googling pictures now. Yes.
It's good stuff. Okay. So I was watching as I was sitting here this morning and we were all getting set up. I put on a Taskmaster, as one does, which are you familiar? Friend of the show, Casey Malone, introduced me to the Taskmaster years ago.
Okay.
They're all on YouTube. It is a UK, it's not really a game show because I don't think there's prizes, but it's like a competition show for like comedians and presenters. And there's a guy that gives them people tasks, and the tasks are always designed to make them look silly or do silly things or open them up for mocking in that kind of uniquely British reality show way. It's kind of the antithesis of the Great British Bake Off in terms of like wholesome behavior and like how much the hosts, the presenters are trying to protect the contestants. The presenters are trying to make the contestants' lives fairly miserable, but they signed up for it. So, it's fine.
I'm looking at the list of season 1 episode titles: Melon Buffet, The Pie Whisperer.
Yeah.
The Poet and the Egg, Down an Octave, Little Denim Shorts.
Well, and so the brilliance of the show is that the tasks are written very specifically to like put in your head, here's how you should do this thing. So, for example, they'll put a 15-foot circle of fake carpet on the ground and put a hole in the middle and give you a potato and tell you have to get the potato in the hole, but you can't touch the carpet. Right.
Okay.
So people do that, and there's a natural inclination. I'm not going to spoil what happens because it's very good. Usually, at least one person comes up with a novel solution to the problem. The one I was watching this morning required people to stick their tongue out for as long as they could. And at intervals determined by the person standing there, they had to lick a lemon, lick sherbet, and then lick an ice lolly, which is what we would call a popsicle. I had to look up what sherbet was because sherbet in the UK, not at all what our sherbet is.
There are a number of terms in the UK that mean extremely different things than they do here.
It's funny you mentioned that because almost all of their slang terms for spit and spittle, which came into heavy play during this particular challenge, are different than ours.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't even understand what the words that were coming out of the host's mouth. So sherbet in the UK is a fizzy sweet powder, usually eaten by dipping a lollipop or licorice using a small spoon or licking it from a finger.
Wait, so it's Fun Dip?
It's Fun Dip. It looks better than Fun Dip though. It looks really fizzy. And in German, they put it in beverages, although it's not often mixed with water anymore because I guess that's no fun. Grown-ups put it in vodka. So anyway, today I learned sherbet in the UK, not a cold refreshing treat. It's some garbage powder.
Apparently the word is Turkish in origin.
Of course.
I just assume anything that ends in ET is French.
Look, if it's Turkish in origin, I'm immediately suspect because I don't know. My mom was English mom, born in England, lived there off and on through her childhood. And she loves this stuff that's called Turkish Delight. Have you ever had that?
I've heard of it.
It's revolting. It is literally, it is a crime upon children in the UK that they presented this as a treat to children. So it's like a rose water flavored jelly candy. I think sometimes it comes in lemon flavors as well. So it's like a soft, squishy, like a really soft jelly, like a room temperature gelatin kind of situation. And then do you know what they put on it? They put confectioner's sugar and fucking nuts, Brad.
What do you have against nuts?
Nuts and like gummies. Like, why don't you have a nice big bite of like gumdrops and sliced almonds? Doesn't that sound delicious?
That sounds like Turkish disgust to me.
I wish I had an air horn now because I would wah wah wah. Yeah, that's why I can't have a morning show ever. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. Hello.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Brad, I've been very busy this week.
Yes?
Yes.
Why is that?
We released the Versus update for the Anacrusis today, or Tuesday.
So you can now murder other people in your game?
You can not only murder other people, but you can play as the aliens, which we like to think of as sanctioned griefing.
Okay. Was this the first? I assume this is the first time the aliens are playable at all, and I ask that because
it's been a while since you played.
Essentially, I assume that is way more design and implementation work than you would think when you say, "Hey, we enabled a versus mode," because you have to design how to play the aliens.
Yeah, so there's right now, that's exactly asymmetric multiplayer. The reason nobody does asymmetric multiplayer games, is it asymmetric? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, lopsided team sizes and or abilities.
Yeah, it's because you have to designing the abilities and making it work is really hard. Mm-hmm. For example, with the aliens, we have 5 aliens. Each one has different attacks and skills. They all have a primary attack. All of them but one have a secondary attack, and the secondary attack will come to that one soon. The like balancing out how to do like incapacitation enemies and chaos generating enemies and like harrying enemies that just kind of grind you down against people that have guns and grenades and stuff like that is challenging. We've been working on it quietly for a long time, and then we spent like 3 months really digging into it. The last 3 months really digging into it. But it's out. It's playable. I think it's really fun. I played 100 hours in the last like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something.
A lot of time in a short time.
Yeah, it's the thing to remember when you play. So it's very much like the Left 4 Dead versus mode, but it plays like the bones are the same in that you have 2 teams. One team is aliens or specials or whatever. The other team is just people with guns. Because the specials are wildly different than Left 4 Dead, the game plays very differently, and it's a little more. It's a modern take on that thing. So we've had a lot of time. We've been playing with streamers and stuff like that, and quite enjoyed it. It's on Steam right now. It's on sales with the summer sale for 50% off. If people like that kind of game, you should get it and play it with your friends.
Yeah, there's room in the world for that kind of mode.
Yeah, I mean, well,
an underserved market.
Nobody else did them.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like, hey, remember that thing? It's been a while.
Right. Everybody was like, hey, man, there's so many Left 4 Dead games coming out. I don't want to. Why does anybody blah, 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 blah. And then everybody's like, I wish we could play Versus. And then everybody released like weird, janky Versuses, and because they didn't want to take the 1.5 years to make it right. So here we are a 1.5 years later, 37 updates to the Anacrusis since we launched, coming out of early access this fall, we think.
Yeah. Also, while you're in the middle of shipping a versus mode, you're also in the middle of shipping your life to the desert again for a month.
Yeah, we're doing a not like somebody in the Discord last year called it an unvacation because like everybody, the kiddo and my wife go on vacation, and I just like work during the day and then swim and hang out at night.
That's like, look, if you can't afford the time off, and also, I mean, realistically, who has time to take off as long as you're going down there anyway, right? Like, I
mean, that's it, and like. So to give people context so that I don't sound like a crazy person, like renting a house someplace where like it's intemperately warm in in that desert with Coachella Valley right now. It's like 110, 115 degrees pretty much every day. That means that during the times that I'm at work, you're not going to be outside at all. Right. It's just, you might go out for like a 30-minute swim at lunchtime, and that's it, which I will do anyway, even while I'm at work, because I'll hork down a sandwich and then go jump in the pool. Maybe not in that order, because the 30 minutes, whatever. Anyway, I do my work during the day, record podcasts with you once a week, twice a week sometimes, and do some streams at night sometimes if I want, and get to hang out in the pool at dusk and dawn and lunchtime, and it's a pretty good way to live.
I am envious. It sounds pretty good. Obviously you have to move your entire office down there, but otherwise.
It gets a little bit easier every year because I've made purchasing decisions based on knowing that that's a possibility. So it's like it's a little less each year. So I'm excited. It's a long drive.
When I was talking to Adam at PC World about speccing out my machine, we were kind of randomly just talking about some of the stuff you chose, and he mentioned that like that was the major determining factor for your case choice has to fit in the trunk.
Yeah, like bolts have a secret hiding space underneath the trunk deck that's like, I don't know, it's like 10 inches deep or something. And I had to have it had to be narrow enough that it would fit in there without breaking the glass. So that's the fractal Meshify compact. But yeah, so we're leaving tomorrow. I got to pack as soon as we get done with the podcast, I'm going to break everything down and pack it up. And then we will drive 10 hours across the California wasteland tomorrow.
Godspeed to you. See you on the other side. What are we doing today?
So we had often we find like stories that are interesting enough that we would like to talk about them, but maybe they don't warrant an entire episode. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're topics that are not timely. Sometimes they're timely. So this is we noticed a trend in the last, let's say 6 months, maybe 9 months now, of the internet going to shit.
It's literally the words that were in my head before you even said it. Like how else can you describe it?
Yeah, and then there's also asterisk. Some cool science happened. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too.
A nice little uplifting, positive science chaser to all of this, the ongoing breakdown of the internet media landscape.
Yeah. And like the people who believe in decentralized media will tell you it's not the internet going to shit. It's just centralized media going to shit. But I think for a lot of people on the internet who came online as phones became the predominant force for computing in the world. Centralized services like Facebook and Google and Reddit and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube are, for all intents and purposes, the internet to those folks.
I mean, I think both perspectives are right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that is the case for those people who have never known a different kind of internet, but also this was always going to happen in some form or another.
100%.
When you concentrate this much control in this few hands, and not just in a few hands, but like ill-intentioned hands, let's say. Well,
and even if they weren't ill-intentioned, like, just to be clear, Twitter before Elon Musk bought Twitter wasn't in a good spot from a public company standpoint, right?
Or from a moderation standpoint. Like as much as like Musk has utterly destroyed Twitter, like old Twitter was better, but it was not great.
So I think. I want to say Mike Masnick at Tech Dirt had talked about that. I don't want to spend all the time talking about Twitter because we've talked about Twitter a lot. Yeah. Everybody knows that Twitter sucks, and it's literally the turd circling the bowl of the internet's toilet right now. But Mike Masnick pointed out that really good moderation is distinguishable because everybody is pissed off all the time about it. And like reading the accounts of the people who worked on those moderation teams and the way those people worked and the policies they'd set up and all that, I feel like of the big companies, I think Twitter probably did moderation best. It also had the smallest scale problem.
That's probably fair. That's probably fair. It was far from ideal, is what I'm. I'm trying to say.
Definitely still far from ideal. Anyway. So the things we're going to talk about.
Sorry, just to expand that thought a little bit. There's never been a truly good modern media or social media platform, I would say. Like all of them have had severe problems and continue to.
I think the thing that everybody realized, and we've talked about this before, so I apologize, but is the difference between, say, message boards in the 90s and 2000s, which we both worked on websites that had enormous message boards that had a boatload of traffic that was completely impossible to monetize because advertisers didn't want to be next to pictures of somebody's ass. And the thing that Twitter and Facebook and the social media companies realized is that if they moderated that content, that user generated content, then they could sell expensive ads against it. And I don't think Elon Musk realizes that to this point. I think that's not a thing that he is conscious of or aware of. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sorry to derail.
Twitter sucks.
Yes.
Move on.
What are the stories we've got here?
I was going to say the two internet is kind of going to shit stories are the Canada Online News Act, which is it's Bill C-18. If you follow the Canadian legislature, it's a link tax is to not to be reductive. And then we're going to talk about YouTube. Well, let's say centralized media services limiting user access in novel, new, exciting, bad ways.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah, it's the cool thing everybody's doing. Twitter priced everybody out of their API or just turned off third-party clients a few months ago. We've talked about that at length. YouTube is trialing blocking ads for viewers who blocking
views,
videos right? For people who block ads to like 3 views a day, 3 video views a day. That's a test for now, but we'll talk about that a little bit. Reddit. Today's the day. We're recording this on Saturday, July 1st. It's the day that Reddit died, as far as I'm concerned. They turned off all...
have all these protests been in advance of the event?
Yeah, I thought the event was July 1st.
Oh, I thought the event had already happened.
No, see, only crazy people turn off the API and then tell you that they turned off the API.
Okay.
Decent company. At least Reddit had the common decency to say, hey, we're going to destroy your niche businesses because your clients are better than ours and we can't. Anyway, we'll get into that. And then the last thing we want to talk about is the exciting thing, the pulsar timing array gravitational wave. Hey, I heard you like gravitational wave astronomy. So we got 2 kinds of gravitational wave astronomy now, not just one.
Can't get enough.
Yeah. So where do you want to start with Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our northern friends.
Yes. Our friends in regulating gigantic media outfits, consuming and profiting from the news of smaller media outfits.
Yes. So this isn't the first time this has happened. Australia tried something similar a few years ago. It's the Online News Act. It applies to companies with significant bargaining power imbalance, which, as far as I can tell, means literally Facebook and Google.
Yeah, basically, they explicitly exempt messaging platforms from this. Things that they see primarily as focused on user communication.
Private communication doesn't count, but anything public. So, for example, the Google app that pulls news articles into it is one of the ones that would apply to this. Links out from Google News to your news site, and what they are saying is it forces these 2 companies to strike deals with media outlets in Canada for fair compensation when content is shared on their platforms. Now, what Google did a big long blog post that explained how they feel about this, also what they're going to do about it, which we'll talk about in a minute. But they described it as a link tax. So they're saying, hey, which just to be clear, common wisdom on the internet has since the dawn of time been making people pay for links is stupid. You can linking is free speech in the United States. There've been cases that have determined that, like the benefit of the user to getting a link from somebody else is generally considered transaction enough. I think. Like this is one of those ones that's complicated for me because I think the Google AMP stuff and the way that they have offloaded the traffic for a lot of news sites and pulled that into the Google ecosystem instead of going out to the newspaper website or the TV station's website or whatever makes this weirder than it would have been 10 years ago, right?
Do you want to like give a very brief primer on Google's AMP accelerated mobile pages? I see amp.google all over the place, but I've never actually taken the time to go read about like how that program works. Like, do the smaller media producers opt into that, or is that something Google is just pulling on their own?
Well, opt-in is an interesting language there because you can choose to opt out. You can choose to not. Yes, you have to opt in order to be part of AMP. And what AMP does is pulls the content from your page, presumably using RSS or some API or script that you install on your site, and then Then Google serves it directly. And there's some sort of ad rev share there, depending on how big you are. I'm sure everybody has different deals. I don't know. I actually don't know anything about that because this all happened after I stopped working in that kind of media. But if you don't opt into that, then you're basically not going to get promoted as news in Google search. Right, because they only want to send you to fast sites because people like fast sites, and news sites are slow because all of the news people have spent the last 20 years putting links to mail enhancement products disguised as news posts and, hey, you can find Bigfoot right next to the climate change is destroying the world stories. So, they've kind of both made they've been, Cory Doctorow would say they've been shitificationed their pages and shitified their pages and also devalued their content at the same time. Now, Facebook's response was pretty good. They were like, hey, we've given Canadian news organizations at least $230 million of free marketing. So we don't see any reason to pay them more than that.
Look, you really will want to do this for the exposure. Like,
yeah.
The exposure you're going to get from working for free for us is going to.
But I mean, it's hard, right? Because like links are exposure.
Well, I mean, you're not entirely wrong.
And they have the biggest fire hose of links in the world, or at least they did.
Fair.
So Australia tried this a few years ago, and the upshot was Google and Facebook made deals with the biggest publishers like News Corp, the newspapers, the companies that own the newspapers, stuff like that, and then blocked everybody else that's small. So as Mike Masnick said, his traffic from Google News in Australia on TechDirt, which is a niche blog, evaporated overnight. I would expect something similar to happen here, except for Google said they're not going to fucking deal with it. They don't care. They're just blocking all news links on Canadian news to Canadian news sites on Search News and Discover products.
It's one way to do it. I certainly did not read the text of this bill because I'm not a lawyer, let alone a Canadian lawyer. But does this stipulate how these smaller producers are to be compensated, or does it just say, hey, you have to pay them somehow?
They have to strike a deal.
Just a deal. It's
fair
not
compensation.
It's not a fair. Okay, so that's the type of thing that would probably be tested if or precedent set if necessary.
Brad, I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay, that's fair. Look, you're not a Canadian lawyer either.
Yeah, I skimmed through the bill, and it looked like they're just saying you have to compensate them and it has to be fair. But I don't know what fair, like, my guess is if you ask a Canadian lawyer, that fair compensation language is probably fraught from a legal standpoint.
Right.
And I don't know what the impact of that is.
What happened in Australia? Did they rescind this in any form, or did they just let the consequences stand?
So no, they just made the deal with the big people, and then all the small people could get fucked. So News Corp totally covered. So basically all it does is enhance the monopoly status of the conglomerates that have bought up all the media properties in whatever region you're in.
Right. And
so it's like in Canada, it's Bell and Rogers and a couple other places.
Right. Yeah. Especially as you see more and more of those conglomerates being run by bad actors or actors with agendas, let's say.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I know I have expressed a little bit of ambiguity here. I think that probably Facebook and Google are on the right side of this. I do think but also I think that that not finding a way to fund news organizations that do real news is a disaster for Western democracies.
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of the larger conversation that underpins this whole thing, right? Is that the small and medium news producer is just sort of dying out rapidly at a very alarming pace.
Yeah, there's no local news anywhere. Right. Like the amount of local news in the United States is infinitesimal. If you have a newspaper in your town that had 30 reporters working or 20 reporters working 2 decades ago, it's lucky. You're lucky if you have one reporter covering your region, not just your town now.
Right.
And honestly, part of that is because of stuff like Google, but part of it's due to Craigslist. Like local newspapers were funded entirely out of classified ads, and Craigslist has utterly decimated the classified ads business.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's done other goods. Like,
no, I know Craig.
It's hard to be shitty about it because he's a genuinely good human being.
Yes,
it seems
I've read about Craig. He does seem pretty great as far as somebody who has control of a fairly large media-ish platform.
Yeah, I mean, he chose not to become a billionaire, right? Like there you go. Anyway, so yeah, Google and Facebook are both going to block Canadian news orgs on Search News and Discover. Facebook and Insta will block as well. Facebook's going to start this in June by blocking 1 to 5% of all Canadians to see how it goes. So congratulations if you're one of the 1 to 5% of Canadians that won't get news from Facebook anymore. Also, maybe not having Facebook give old people links to news anymore is a good thing, but also it probably just means they're going to see much, much, much worse stuff than they have before. Yeah. So great news, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about something sunshinier and more fun?
Sure, always.
Well, I got bad news for you, Brad.
Oh boy.
YouTube. So we're talking about. I have a metaphor I like for this.
Okay, go on.
Well, when you're in a business of creating content, you can choose to plant turnips and grow more turnips. So make more content, bring more people into the fold, create more good things for people to watch. Or you can choose to extract and grow revenue that way. Just to be clear, you make more stuff, you make more money. Alternately, you can say, you know what, we have enough turnips here. We're going to try to squeeze more money out of the existing turnips. We're not going to bother planting. We don't need any more turnips. We're good. The world of turnips is over. And we're going to just juice these turnips, and we're going to keep squeezing them until, and we'll save a lot of money that way, because it turns out planting turnips is expensive.
Not since Animal Crossing blew up at the start of the pandemic have turnips been so relevant. Look,
the stock market is hot right now. I can't remember the pig's name, but anyway, what's her name? Daisy May.
Oh gosh. Oh man. I should remember that.
Joan is the old turnip pig.
Animal Crossing turnip pig.
Isn't it Joan?
Maybe Daisy May. Daisy May's
in the new game. Yeah.
Daisy May. I
did a lot of stock market manipulation in Animal Crossing early in the pandemic.
I believe that. Not to defend YouTube here, but is it possible that they have already grown as many turnips as it is possible to grow?
It is hard to be a new turnip on YouTube these days.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Yes.
I mean, you're in the new turnip business. How is it over there? Pretty good. Yeah. So YouTube's blocking. They're doing a trial. I would assume that this is a trial in the sense of the Netflix. Hey, we're going to try not letting 17 people use the same login to log into Netflix trial, which started out small and then immediately became the policy.
I was going to say that has fully gone into effect now, right?
Yeah.
On their side.
So they're going to start blocking. They're limiting viewers who block ads to 3 views per day.
3 video views, just to be clear. Like YouTube, you can watch 3 videos a day.
My guess is that part of this is, I think that almost like these platforms all have a problem in that a very small percentage of users make up the vast majority of engagement. So like YouTube might have 1 billion people look at it every month, but of those 1 billion people, 1% will be more active than, it's the typical long tail. 1% will be more active than the other 99% combined. And, the problem is if that 1% of hardcore users is blocking ads, then they're going to not make money on the people that are generating the most traffic or eating the most turnips, I guess is the metaphor. So yeah, they're going to try a limited test. It's unclear if that's like there's multiple different kinds of ad formats on YouTube, right? There's the video ads, which are, like the high dollar ads, the ones that play before and during your videos. There's display ads that are in the page around that frame, and those only display on like web and some mobile clients and don't show on like TVs and stuff like that. And then there's the integrated ads that content creators put inside their videos that YouTube doesn't see any money from.
Right.
For the most part, I think there's systems
those are more like sponsorship and brand deals.
It's still money being spent on YouTube.
Yeah. What I mean is they don't take the form of a commercial as such.
Yeah. It's like it would be like me saying, hey, Brad, have you heard about Will's shave cream? And then we do a 5-minute bit about Will's shave cream.
A product integration.
Yeah. Now at the same time, YouTube is they're in trouble with advertisers over claims of advertising fraud for those video display ads, the high dollar ones, in that they were billing advertisers for one thing, the high dollar, high value targeted advertisements going to users on YouTube. And then the advertisers are accusing them of running those ads on third-party sites in like embeds, which are lower value ads.
Is that the headline that's been going around that said the They cited the 80% figure, like 80% of the ads were in violation of their own terms.
That is if that is true, and then that ends up sticking, it is going to be a phenomenally expensive cost for YouTube.
What's the mechanism of enforcement there is the thing I've been wondering. Is that headline's been going around? Like, is that
probably there's arbitration, but I bet they sue them.
Are they going to have enough legal grounds to force it?
I don't.
I guess if it's like very clearly delineated in the terms of the deal, then it's really not that hard to bring legal action, right?
Yeah. I mean, so in my magazine and website days, if you messed up something like that, you just do a make good if it's small enough, and you'd say, okay, we'll give you some more ads and we'll make sure they're the good ads this time. We're really sorry. We had a technical glitch on the back end. The scale of this seems like it's going to be too big for that, and there's going to have to be a monetary recompense. So my guess is that I don't think these two things are connected, except for they indicate the decline of like when YouTube's growth has been based on user base growing and the amount of content on the platform growing for the last 15 years, and that starts to slow because they run out of new people to hit. Then all of a sudden things like, hey, our 80% of our ads were fraudulent become a much bigger problem. It's also worth mentioning that, hey, since Google entered the ad market in the early 2000s, they've completely devalued every ad market they've entered. Mm-hmm. Like when in 1998, display ads on CNET were going for $75 and $100 CPMs. So to get 1,000 views, you'd pay $75. Now a CNET type display ad is, you could probably get them for 2 cents per 1,000 views at this point. So it's like, then they've done the same thing to video views, video ads, the whole thing. It's Google is not a friend to people who make money with advertising. That's why we don't have ads on this podcast, because podcasts are one of the last places you can get decent CPMs.
Yes.
Anyway,
and it's very volatile on top of that.
It is very volatile on top of that.
It's still the case, as far as I know, that you have to very intentionally go out of your way to block YouTube ads, or at least the dynamically served video ads on YouTube. Like, you still need something like uBlock Origin, right? Like you need a browser play. Like, you can't do it at the network level with a Pi-hole, for example.
Because it happens inside the video stream,
right, and because they serve the video ads from the same place that they serve the actual content. So
yeah, like it all lives inside the player, and to the unless you have a browser that specifically knows how to, a browser plugin that knows how to do that, you don't have an easy way to block stuff.
Yeah. What's the state of YouTube Premium at this point?
So I accidentally had YouTube Premium for a pretty long time. You get ad-free videos, so you don't see anything. Mm-hmm. I think it costs
12. So I'm seeing 12 a month here. I don't know if that's an annual. No, I think that is the monthly.
That's the monthly rate. It's cheap, and you can do a family thing for less than that even.
Yes, or annually. I'm absolutely not shilling for YouTube here. I'm just curious what the state of the paid alternative is to this. Also, so they are still bundling YouTube Music with that as well. Like that, it's not terrible for $12 a month. That's not, if you watch a ton of YouTube, and I've seen varied opinions on the quality of YouTube Music, but that's still, like, if you factor in, or if you consider the cost of like a Spotify subscription, like, this doesn't seem like the worst deal in the world.
Yeah, I'll tell you a secret too. If you have a couple of Google speakers and you add them and remove them from your account over a 3-month cycle, you just keep getting infinite free months of Google of YouTube Premium.
You don't say. What qualifies as a Google speaker?
The little Google Home pucks that they gave away for free for years. Yeah. So
good to know.
Ask me how I found that out, because I was like, why do I have YouTube Premium? And it's because I had moved some pucks around the house into different places and disconnected and reconnected them while I was doing that. And every time I did, it gave me another month of free.
You'd think they would be able to detect specific speakers being reused, but who knows?
I don't know, man. I didn't complain. It's nice not having ads. uBlock Origin on my PC, at least, doesn't block YouTube ads by default. So.
Okay.
I do believe you have to go a little bit more out of your way to block. Yeah. It's similar to the Twitch situation.
Yeah, I've never in my life used an intentional browser plugin style ad blocker.
Oh, I'm look, with the amount of malware floating around the low budget ad networks these days, I block everything and I allow list sites that I like.
Fair.
So can we talk about Reddit API drama?
Yes.
Okay. So Reddit, message boards for the internet, destroyed all the message boards, centralized all the message boards, put them all in one place where you could connect them all with one user account over a 15-year period. Ironically, Reddit kind of rose because it was always the also ran until Dig imploded in the late 2000s. Mm-hmm. And due to, I think, a bad redesign, I can't remember. I think they changed the rules about how stuff's promoted and people got upset and there was a user revolt and then everybody went to Reddit and Reddit was pretty good. That's
my memory, that it kind of collapsed almost overnight. Did Dig have the same kind of large scale community and message board facility as Reddit though? I remember Dig much more as just here are a bunch of links. Here it's FARC. Here are the links that are getting voted to the top, but I didn't remember it being as sort of siloed community based.
So it was more about links, but there were channels for the links. There was a Czech tech channel because Maximum PC stuff. There was a guy who was a Dig super user who loved Maximum PC, and he would post stories from our website all the time. And they would always go up because he had the way Dig worked is the more success you had, the more successful you would be in the future. So once you had 1,000 front page stories, then you'd post a link and it would almost certainly get to the front page. Anyway. Reddit's been kind of chugging along nicely for 15 years. They've had controversies and stuff in the past. It is the, I don't want to say libertarian because I don't think that's exactly, they're kind of the free straight, of the sites on the internet, they've always hewed, of this big centralized sites, they've always hewed a little further to the more free speech end of the spectrum, in that they allow pornography and they allowed a lot of weird white supremacist shit for a long time. And just general, it was not as bad as your 4chan or 8chan or kind of the image boards, but closer than say Instagram is ever going to be, or, even Instagram's probably the right example there. Anyway, they a month and a half ago announced that they were going to increase the prices, make some API changes. Always the API, if you don't know, is the thing that lets third-party applications, or often your own internal application, connect to the back end of a site, so you can get a different kind of presentation for a mobile app or versus the web view or whatever. Yeah, I mean,
it's a way of soliciting specific data in an efficient way instead of just scraping what is presented on the public web page.
Yeah, the creator of Apollo, which was, I think, the most popular Reddit third-party client. It's the one that I used, at least.
Yeah, this is the one that I have seen cited over and over here.
Yeah, he immediately said, "Hey, this is going to cost me millions of dollars a month at the rates that they're charging." So API access is charged per. There's a billion different ways to charge it. Sometimes you pay a if you're doing research, you might pay a flat rate to have a key for a certain period of time. AirVisual, which is the air quality API, they aggregate. I want to say purple air sensors. I can't remember. One of the air sensors they aggregate, and you can connect them to, say, your Home Assistant install or a phone app or something. And you pay varying levels based on how many connections you think you're going to have on a monthly basis, from free up to thousands of dollars a month. Reddit, the Reddit one seemed to be just phenomenally expensive for third-party clients, in a way that it seemed the price changes seem to be tailor-made to destroy third-party clients. Basically, all of the third-party clients shut down as of today. Reddit was weirdly aggressive with the people who were complaining about this, which felt bad.
Yeah.
It spawned a user revolt. The moderators of most of the most popular subreddits locked them.
Yeah.
They then unlocked them and kicked them, replaced the moderators, it seems like, in a lot of the bigger subreddits.
Yes.
I just, from idly looking, it seems like engagement across that site is much lower now than it was a month ago. I'm when you look at posts in default, Reddit has a series of like 15 or something default subreddits that for a long time, are funny and are photos and stuff like that were the kind of front page for people who weren't logged in. and or people who created a new account and hadn't customized the Reddits that they follow. And even in those places, which are typically really high traffic, there's no like the posts are still there and there's some votes, but there's not a lot of comments and there's not big comment threads underneath those posts anymore. The APIs shut off on June 30th and they're basically gone now. I don't think that Reddit ever came out and said why they're doing this, other than that they're going public or getting out from under Condé Nast or something, and thus need to make money in a way that they thought that this was going to work.
Yeah, I mean there was one or maybe two interviews floating around with Steve Huffman, the head of the co-founder and current CEO, that painted him in a pretty shitty light, and like he and all but said, and this is like a larger topic, like all but said he was following Twitter's lead, basically saying, hey, Elon Musk is getting away with this, so I probably can too.
Yeah, and it's I mean, my assumption is that it's about ads, because the third-party clients didn't hook into the ad API and didn't show ads in their feeds. So if the 1% of most active Twitter, or if some percentage of the most active Reddit users were using Apollo, then that was lost. Like the business guys are looking at it and are like, hey, every user connected to this is lost revenue. We have to make that up somehow. But I don't like. I think that there's a fundamental. Like, it's an interesting choice to me in a time when we're reaching the end of new user acquisition on the internet, especially in the English language world, for them to say, hey, we are going to burn all these users and make the things that they like shittier.
Right. Like it very much feels like they're cutting off their nose to spite their face here. I mean, if you look at a large bulk of users and say, hey, these users are not being monetized, like why not implement a policy that effectively monetizes them without driving them away, instead of like setting API pricing at such a level that they're just going to go away? I mean, maybe is it just hubris that are like, hey, if we just price these third-party apps out, then of course they'll just come back to viewing things on our site the way we want them to, as opposed to just not viewing it at all.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Like the Twitter thing is interesting here, because like we're still in the finding out phase of Twitter, of Elon Musk fucking around with Twitter, right? Like I think his assumption is that people are so addicted. I think his assumption is, Elon Musk, am so addicted to Twitter that I can't stop using Twitter no matter what. Therefore, I can do whatever I want to Twitter, and the chuds will keep coming back.
Yeah, and you also saw that in the response to the blue checks going away, the real, actual verified blue checks, because they got so angry when the people who were legitimately verified said, "Fuck you! I'm not paying $8 for this worthless and in fact counterproductive now blue check mark. I'm just not going to have it anymore." Like, they could not wrap their heads around the idea that these people would not crawl over their own mothers to get the check mark back. Like, they were just like, what do you mean you're not? They were furious. It was insane. It's like, these things don't have the value that you think they do, because you are too fucking online to understand that normal people don't care about this shit.
Well, and also you in the process of the thing that you did, you completely devalued the thing that once had value.
Yeah. I mean, that makes it worse for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really curious to me that Huffman would cite or imply even that Musk is the role model here, given that like the valuation of Twitter in the last 9 months has presumably, like we're looking at between 15 and 20% of what it was when Musk bought it.
Yeah.
And part of that is due to Musk buying at a ridiculous price, but part of it is also that he just has fucking run everybody interesting off of the platform.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen what happens with Reddit. There was nothing. I mean, okay, there's work involved in doing it, but there's a way to do this where they reach out to the people who are making these apps that have high engagement and say, hey, we've got to start making money on your users, and we'll share that with you because they're your users. But either, let's build an ad API that if you apply that and set certain rates, you don't pay the API fees or whatever. And there's potential for that whole thing to work, or maybe make it so Apollo only works if you pay for Reddit Gold, which means you don't see ads, right? Sure. Like I would happily pay Reddit money to keep using Apollo and have Reddit the way it was a month ago, 2 months ago.
I mean, how much can the per user revenue be on ad views? Like if it's an A/B calculation of, hey, we can make this much if this person is viewing ads, or we can charge them what, $5 a month to use their favorite third party app. I don't know. Can the ad revenue really be that high?
Well, I mean, what do they charge for Reddit Gold? You know, that's going to be 3 to 10 times the ad revenue probably for an average user, right?
Let's find out here.
Oh, it's Reddit Premium now. Sorry.
Premium. Okay.
It's $50 a year, $6 a month.
Okay. Yeah, that's about sure.
And you see no ads with that, which is like that's and you get coins that you can give to people. Like like full disclosure, we talked to Reddit 13 years ago at Whiskey Media when we were starting the premium stuff about doing a bundled because they were early on charging money for access to their website. We did that at Whiskey before almost anybody else had. Ars Technica had been doing it for a little bit. Penny Arcade had been doing it for quite a while at that point. But they were like, hey, you'll get something. Like Reddit and Whiskey were among the first that were like, hey, you'll get something new for doing this. The real funny thing about all this, I lost my window with my notes in it, unfortunately. The real unfortunate thing about all of this is that there's not a replacement for this, for the service that Reddit provided. And when all those subreddits went dark and the Google links into them, like the number of things you search for on the internet that are troubleshooting that take you to a Reddit page, whether it's how to get something working on your Steam, like how to get I couldn't get Diablo 4 working on my Steam Deck because all of the top results for that process were to the Steam Deck or Diablo subreddits, and they were all dark. So I had to go dig up 15 pages deep in the Google results and find a PC gaming site.
I am not a habitual Reddit user. I don't hang out on any subreddits as a matter of course. Like I'm kind of like you. I mostly end up there also through search results. That must have happened 15 or 20 times in the last, what's it been, 3 weeks?
It's been since the start of June.
Like
most of them are back on now because they flipped them back on, I think.
I don't know how many times I have Googled how to do something or look up some piece of obscure information that ran into the private wall on the given subreddit since this happened. Like there's a ton of institutional knowledge locked up in there.
Yep. Well, and the thing I didn't anticipate is that the enshittification of Reddit would also further contribute to the enshittification of Google. Which, I mean, at some point we got to talk about Google because it is almost non-functional at this point. Yeah. We are running long. You want to talk about some gravitational waves?
Sure. Yeah, let's get into it. The last thing I'll say, since we were talking about all that stuff, I cannot wait for Blue Sky to open for real so people can just sign up, and also for other instances to start popping up and federating, because I think that's probably going to be the one. I think this is in no way endorsing Blue Sky. Like I kind of have no opinion on the product and almost feel like you can't really have an opinion on it until it opens up and federation is in place and we see how things really start working out. All I'm saying is if I had to put money on one that is finally going to catch on and take Twitter's place, I would probably place my bet on that one based on the response I'm seeing.
I think I am less optimistic having used it for a while.
Okay.
I think that the people who are in charge of it, not the people on the board like Jack Dorsey and those folks, but the actual people who are building it are very, very young and are not handling things like complicated moderation questions and communication with the community well at all.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the most prominent representative of the org I see out there is one of their developers.
Mm-hmm.
Like a guy whose day job is to code the thing, not represent the thing. But I mean, that's why I say we don't really know what form it's ultimately going to take, because once there are other instances, what Blue Sky as a group does is almost immaterial to people who are on other servers. Because they're all going to have their own policies, right? They're all going to have their own moderation and algorithms and XYZ.
Yeah, and I do think, but I don't know that they're, like when I first started there, I thought that they would be making better moderation tool. Like I was optimistic because I thought that they were going to focus more on making better moderation tools, and it may be that they're working on that. And it's just not, that work isn't visible.
Oh yeah, I mean,
in the clients.
Looking at the feature set they launched with, it was barely a functional platform when they got out there.
Oh, it absolutely wasn't. Like, they shouldn't have invited as many people as they did when they didn't have tools to block and mute people and stuff like that. They need honestly, they need communication help more than I think anything else at this point. But also, like, nobody knows what's going on, and the community, like, I think they're about 2 weeks away from a user revolt right now among the most engaged users. If I had to guess, given how pissed off the heavy posters are.
I think you spend a lot more time looking at it than I do. And also, I will grant that the bsky.social instance probably will be the central and biggest one over time.
My guess is it's going to be like a lobby. I think that's the way Mastodon seems to be going now too, where the big Mastodon.social and those types of things are like the default, like where you go if you don't choose an instance when you create your account. That's exactly what I mean. And then you'll migrate out to the instance of interest once you get your sea legs.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it plays out. Anyway, like the entire basis of my prognosticating here is just on the kind of level of social cachet I see around this thing, which I think is the X factor that you need for something like this to catch on.
I think that's probably correct.
Like the specifically sort of like the invite code begging is not the right word. I don't know how else to put it on. Like, there are a ton of people on Twitter who are very actively searching for invites at all times now. Like, it's caught on as like the one to go to if you're trying to escape Twitter, and like that kind of momentum has a way of reinforcing itself.
I've kind of stopped giving people codes. Like, if people I have some codes. I think bringing more people into Blue Sky right now is probably bad for Blue Sky.
Possible. Yeah.
They need to focus on anyway.
I want an alternative to appear.
That's true.
I want the bulk of people I want to hear from to move off of Twitter now. I don't want to touch Twitter at all if I can help it.
I like I've been spending pretty much equal time on Mastodon and Blue Sky these days. So
Mastodon is cool. I just don't know if it's ever going to escape the reputation of being the one that's too hard to figure out for regular people.
Also, I will also say that I have been mansplained more aggressively on Mastodon than at any other point in my adult life. So
fair.
Anyway, let's talk about space. Space.
You know what space has going for it? There are no people there.
Well, asterisk. No people that we know of.
Okay, fair.
Plus, Jodie Foster's dad's out there somewhere, I think.
Okay. Well, it's a big place. You know, you could probably find some solitude, some peace out there if you want.
That's true. I dibs on Europa.
Okay, fair. Pulsar timing arrays.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Those are 3 words I didn't expect to hear together.
No. Gravitational waves have been big in the news for a while. I guess LIGO. When did that stuff go down?
It was like 2019, I think. I can't remember.
Right?
It seems like a long time ago, but it was probably like 4 years. LIGO is the gravitational wave observatory that was built. There's 2 installations on opposite sides of the world, basically.
Right. Yes. So those are terrestrial antennae. Correct.
Sorry, opposite sides of the country, not the world. It's Massachusetts and Pasadena.
Right. But the point is the detectors for that size of waves, I guess is the right term, that wavelength of gravitational waves, those detectors are on Earth.
They're small. Yeah. Those waves are small scale waves. Basically the LIGO uses mirrors that are spaced 4 kilometers apart, which can detect a change of less than 1/10,000th of the charge diameter of a proton.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very small, it's a fairly large space by human scale, and a fairly small amount of change between those 2 places.
It's pretty small.
And it detects ripples in space time, like tiny little ripples. And then because there's 2 instances that are far apart, they can detect the movement of the wave by comparing the difference in timing of the ripples hitting the 2 different detectors.
Right. I read about this right before we started, and I've already forgotten. What was the theorized source of the waves that LIGO detected before we get to the current news?
Neutron stars or small black holes colliding.
Okay. And also I think just orbiting pairs of black holes, right?
Well, there's the orbiting. All of this has to do with the orbiting pairs of black holes because they cause the ripples. The collision is is like once they get close enough, they create gravitational waves because they're basically it's this is a bad analogy that if astrophysicists are listening, I apologize, but it's like throwing two rocks into a pond and you see the interference pattern from the ripples, except for instead of throwing the two rocks in the pond, the two rocks are orbiting around each other, spinning on the surface of the pond, making ripples like crazy. Maybe it's like pouring 2 dots of liquid nitrogen onto a pond. And they're going to spin around like crazy because of the Leidenfrost effect, but they'll also make ripples because they're moving. Don't listen to me. I'm a communicator, not a scientist. Anyway,
noted.
The point is, the neat thing about gravitational waves is because they manipulate space-time instead of relying on things like EM radiation moving, they give us a heads up that something cool is about to happen. We can aim a telescope at it.
Right. Also, I gather this is something that has just been theorized to exist, and now we are able to actually detect it. Like the response to a lot of this has been, it's great to confirm that what we thought was there is in fact there.
Yeah, it opens a whole new wave of a world of a whole new genre of astronomy for us, right? Like the same thing happened in the 60s when we started using radio telescopes. The new thing is, so LIGO was a few years ago. Since 2022, as of 2022, LIGO's made 3 runs and made 90 detections of gravitational waves. Those gravitational waves that they detect are relatively small. So they're from I'm going to say small things, but they're not really small by human scale. They're the result of dying stars crashing into each other and neutron stars, very massive things crashing into each other. Now, this new thing, the pulsar timing array discovery that was announced like 3-4 days ago, it was part of the North American Nanohertz Observatory for Gravitational Waves. I guess nanohertz means it's the frequency. I don't know what the nanohertz means there. I'm curious about that.
Is that, well, hertz is times per second. Is that billionths of a second?
Billionths of a second. Yeah, I assume that's the difference in timing that they're detecting on the pulsars. But what this does is this finds very long wavelength gravitational waves, like gravitational waves with a wavelength of light years, huge, enormous ripples in space-time.
Just to step back for a second and think about the term wavelength. Like I always have to remind myself when you're talking about the wavelength of whatever type of wave, these are physical distances, right?
Distance between peaks. So like if you're standing at the ocean, you look at the wavelength, it's the distance between 2 waves.
Right.
If you have a jump rope and you're making it make a standing wave in it, it's the difference between the high point to the high point.
Right. But what I mean though is like when you're at the beach, it's very easy to visualize that looking at water. But when you're thinking about something like EM radiation, I have to remind myself those are still physical wavelengths, even though we're talking about photons, right?
We're talking about ripples in space-time that create waves that are light years long.
Yeah. What I mean is it's a physical distance. Like it's that is a measure that the brain is able to intuitively understand is what I mean, even though that sort of waveforms and invisible radiation and things like that are things that the brain does not.
Well, remember all EM radiation exists on the same spectrum, right? From X-rays to like infrared and gamma rays, right?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is you're applying a concrete unit of measurement to something that is very abstract and invisible.
Well,
I guess is the thing that's so crazy to me.
Yeah, in this case, it's not even like an EM wave that we're talking about. We're talking about ripples in the fabric of the universe.
Yes, it's not something moving through space. It is space itself being deformed. And also a light year is a very, very long distance. 9 trillion kilometers, 6 trillion miles in 1 light year.
Or a quarter of the distance to the nearest sun that's not our sun.
Yeah.
Basically this experiment has been running for a long time. They started in 2007, I believe, and they monitor different pulsars, like 60 some pulsars, I think.
68.
68. Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yes.
68 pulsars at least once a month to look for changes. So, okay, we should take a step back. Pulsars are the stars that rotate at a specific frequency and make
or collapsed stars. They're not stars that are still fusing elements. They're the cores. They're the cores of collapsed gigantic stars.
Yeah, just because they're collapsed doesn't mean they're not still stars, man. They don't make light; they make radio waves now, or whatever.
I think that they still emit,
but they
stuff.
spin it at very predictable frequencies, right? And the deviations even from the spin are predictable and understandable. So
you should also, if space is so full of mind blowing stuff, that's why I love it so much. You should go read about what neutron stars are made of, pulsars.
Is it neutrons?
Well, it's neutron degenerate matter. It's you've probably heard about this before. It's the type of matter that you've probably heard like a tablespoon weighs like 3,000 tons or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all neutrons. Oops, all neutrons.
My understanding is it's matter that has collapsed so densely that it has essentially overcome the forces that resist compression at the electron and proton level, and all that are left are neutrons.
So there's no space between the bits, basically.
Right. It's so dense that only neutrons still exist in this matter. It's basically the densest matter that can exist prior to being a black hole, is my understanding.
Cool. But the point is, this is one of the things we discovered when we started doing radio astronomy 50 years ago, or 60 years ago, I guess now. Is that there are these if you aim the radio telescopes at specific areas in space, you get these repeating signals, and it repeats at a high frequency, milliseconds, I think. When they look at them over long periods of time, they realize that these signals are predictable in very specific ways. And somebody in the 90s was like, hey, what if there's gravitational waves, we'll be able to tell the differences in these. We can use these pulsars as antenna, basically.
Yeah. That's the coolest thing to explain here about this detection method, is that you're using pulsars essentially as the same style of endpoints as the Earth-based detectors that you were talking about earlier, the mirrors.
Yeah, but they're thousands of light years, hundreds of thousands of light years apart in some cases.
Same concept, just using astronomical features instead of terrestrial mirrors or whatever.
Yeah, it's a remarkable idea, and because the wavelengths are so long, and because the propagation times take a long time, we've been collecting data for 15 years at this point, 15 years, and we're just starting to see results now. And the results are it's like we're measuring the background hum of space-time, basically. They've detected gravitational waves that are literally light years, wavelengths of light years, which is remarkable. And they're, because of the positioning of the pulsars, it's kind of like the analogy that I read is that it's kind of like having wave sensors along the rim of a pond and throwing stones in at different places. And you can measure where the stones went in because of the interference patterns and the timing of the waves reaching the wave detectors at the edge of a pond. The other metaphor. So what we're detecting, though, is supermassive black holes merging, we think. They're not 100% sure. It could be cosmic strings. It could be cosmic inflation. There's some other stuff that I didn't understand because it was like there was scary math involved. But the two supermassive black holes, like the kind that are in the center of spiral arm galaxies merging, like it would the data matches up with that. The thing that's interesting is there seem to be a lot more of those supermassive black holes merging than we previously expected, and cosmological models maybe implied before. So either so there's still stuff to figure out, I guess, is the TLDR.
Yeah, and like you alluded to, most galaxies have these types of black holes at their centers. So this, studying that sort of thing also has ramifications for understanding like how galaxies are formed and evolve and work in general. Yeah,
the interesting thing about this is that the space that's affected by those massive black holes is pretty large in the center of the galaxy. The signals that you get with the kind of resolution that we're operating with this new, it's not new, but this approach is relatively low. So it's not until they're about to smash into each other that we actually get that we start seeing signals. They have to be within, I think, 1,000 AU, which is 1,000 times the distance from Earth to our sun. Just like 97 million miles or 92 million miles. Yeah. 93
average, I believe. 1 AU.
1 AU. So yeah, they have to be very close. So again, it's another thing that it's at this point, there's two interesting things. One is that it matches up with the model for supermassive black hole binaries merging. 2, seems like a lot more of those. 3, as we start seeing more of these, we'll know where to aim telescopes to see some cool shit potentially. But yeah, it's
an important step.
It is. I mean, look, is this gonna have implications on our day-to-day life in the next 6 to 9 months? Absolutely not. Is it really freaking cool that we can look at stars that are thousands and thousands of light years away and detect ripples in space-time using inferences from those observations? Absolutely, is fucking cool.
Is it cool in an observational capacity? Yes. Is it going to satisfy the people who ran around for the 48 hours preceding this announcement, acting like it was going to be the announcement of the discovery of alien life? No. This got teased. I was
offline, I think, while that was happening.
It was maybe something like 36 hours before the announcement. There was an announcement of the announcement, and of course, a bunch of people on social media started freaking out about this is the big one. They're going to announce something truly life changing, and
it is truly life changing
for people working in this field. Absolutely,
but also we understanding how the universe started and how it will end is it's. I find it gives comfort. We talked about this with Katie a few weeks ago, but it's nice. It's nice to know that it's going to keep going.
Yeah. Can I slip in my little astronomical addendum here?
I'm very interested in this.
Follow up to the Patreon episode we just posted, where we mostly talked about museums, and I extolled the value of having a season pass at the Academy of Science, which is in Golden Gate Park near us, and we stop in there for 10 minutes every time we're on a walk in Golden Gate Park.
Oh, man, when we lived on the other side of the park from where you are, we had a membership, and I would just walk over there and go in, and it was so nice.
Just you just want to go see some fish, or maybe walk through the rainforest for 10 minutes.
Spend 10 minutes sitting up on the green roof, which is a lovely place.
They have a roof covered with plants. Well, yesterday when we stopped in there for our 10-minute chill out session, representatives of the I guess it's actually called the B612 Foundation, although all the signage referred to it as the Asteroid Institute, and their shirts said Asteroid Institute. But looking at their website, I gather,
did they offer a haircut or anything, Brad?
No. It was founded by an American astronaut. Let me pull up his name. Dr. Edward Liu, former NASA astronaut, is the co-founder of the B612 Foundation. I think the Asteroid Institute is a program within the B612 Foundation, if I am reading their website right. Anyway, they were there showing off a bunch of meteor fragments, and then some of the researchers were there just hanging out to answer people's questions.
Did you get to touch space?
They were not letting you touch any of the rocks.
That's probably best.
They did have a cross section, a nice clean cut sheet from a larger meteorite that was mostly made of iron, that had some really interesting formations in it that only happen essentially when it forms and then cools very slowly in space. So they have this kind of crosshatch, crystalline crosshatch pattern on the interior of the meteorite that is only because it becomes very hot when it forms and then takes millions of years to cool.
Well, yeah, because there's nothing to radiate the heat away in space, right?
Yes,
so what is their goal? What do they do?
I've not read too much about their website yet. I mostly talk to them. That's where this is coming from. The Asteroid Institute is a B612 program which collaborates on asteroid-related STEM projects with major institutions around the world. They were there. I mostly talked to them about deflection.
Okay.
The researcher I talked to obviously had a lot to say about DART. And I basically, my big question was hey, what's the current status of deflection strategies? What's the go-to? He said that they seem to be big proponents of the subtle gravitational tug deflection.
Yeah. Put a lot of mass near it and just pull it off course and hope your math is good.
It was fun. Well, actually, so it's correctable. That's actually what the researcher I talked to said was so preferable about that one, is that it allows you to make further adjustments over time, which I assume would basically entail moving the craft slightly closer or farther away from the asteroid, is my guess. The downside, he said, is that you need a century of warning.
So we got to get on it, is what they're saying.
Well, yes, we have to detect the offending object way, way, way in advance. He basically said you need 100 years of lead time to subtly adjust the trajectory of an asteroid like that.
See, I was afraid that you were going to say that these people were the asteroid miners and
no.
Okay.
No, these are people who track. He had a lot to say. The most urgent thing he had to say was about detection. He basically said that the world enders they feel pretty good about having caught most of them at this point. The nation enders, they're making progress. Yeah, like this is going to wipe out a country size area as opposed to destroy the entire planet. He said the city destroyers, they have a long, long way to go.
You mean what a city destroyer is? What, like a basketball court size, probably?
I didn't ask how big the object, but the type of thing that could wipe Cleveland off the map. Like there are still a lot of those unaccounted for.
Never forget Buenos Aires, Brad. That's all I'm saying. That's cool.
It was fun. It was really cool. I wish I had gotten some contact information.
Well, I mean, they have a website. I'm sure we can find them.
It was a fun encounter though.
I love going in there and seeing, like, I love going into museums and finding somebody who's like, so when we were in DC, we went to the botanical gardens and the corpse flowers, one of their corpse flowers was blooming. Have you ever gone to see our corpse flower in San Francisco?
No.
Okay. So the corpse flower is a like 7 to 10 foot up to 500 pound flower that blooms every decade or so.
Okay.
If the conditions are right, it's called the corpse flower. It looks a little phallic.
Okay.
Just full disclosure. It smells like a corpse. It smells like a decaying corpse.
Oh, that's
to attract carrion eaters.
How lovely.
It is a remarkable smell, I'm going to say.
I was wondering where the name came from. I was going to say that maybe they are due for a rebrand if they want to improve their image, because that is not the most appealing name. But then when I hear what it sounds like it smells like.
Well, so it was cool because we went into the Arboretum. It's right there at the entrance. So it hits you right in the face when you open the door. And it was like, you're in a greenhouse. So it's like 90 degrees in there.
I don't know if that sounds like a pleasant experience.
Well, but it was cool because two of the people that work with the plants, two of the botanists were standing there hanging out answering questions, and I was able to ask the question I've wondered about corpse flowers for 20 years because like. When the one bloomed in San Francisco, when like the mid 2000s, it was a big deal. Like there hadn't been one in an arboretum that bloomed for a really long time. People were really excited. People flew from all over the world to come see it. And since that time, they seem to be blooming more regularly. You see news of them popping up in other arboretums and botanical gardens and all that.
Well, lovely.
And I asked her, and she was like, "Yeah, the good news is we've gotten better at cultivating them, and also people tend to be interested in coming to check them out. So you like we're investing more effort and energy, and because it's good public relations for the arboretums and the botanical gardens, but also like it's important conservation because we now
yes, obviously destruction of any species is an absolute tragedy.
I will tell you, if you have the opportunity to check one out, you should do it. It is a remarkable experience.
Yes, maybe I'll take you up on that.
It doesn't really smell like corpses, just for the record. It just smells bad. Or weird.
So, I'm not necessarily in need of a whiff of cadaver on command necessarily.
I mean, I guess, hold on, I should rephrase. The cadavers that I've experienced have been like preserved and, kind of more not formaldehyde-y, but like,
clinical.
Yeah. Clinical, like fresh.
Okay.
I've never been walking through the woods and found a decaying body or anything like that. So I don't know what the real scent of decay smells like, but it doesn't smell. It was interesting, but not unpleasant is what I would say. If you're worried about that, don't let that make you chicken out from going to see the corpse flower. And you can take a mask and put it on if you're freaked out about it when you get there.
Sure.
But talking to people in museums kicks ass.
Great.
Anyway, I guess that'll do it. This is a long episode. Yeah. We were going to talk about Red Hat this week, but we think we're going to take a slightly different approach and maybe revisit it in an upcoming episode if things go well.
Possibly with a guest.
Possibly with a guest.
There is Red Hat and open source drama to talk about.
Yeah. Scene drama. Everybody loves scene drama.
Perhaps an expert in the field would be suitable.
Yeah, it might be a good idea. Anyway, that'll do it for us this week. Thank you all for listening. As always, Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod is a 100% listener supported show.
It's true.
Without you, the generous listener, we would not be here every week to talk about such things as the enshittification of the internet and corpse flowers. Mm-hmm. So if you would like to find out how to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/techpod. Again, it's patreon.com/techpod. And we would like to thank everybody who supports the show. You get access to the Discord Where there's a bunch of beautiful people talking about nerdy stuff all the time. You get access to the Patron episode where we talk about we just kind of chat about what's on our minds. It seems like these days.
Anything and everything.
Yeah. I enjoy those. They're unstructured chats that I quite like. And then if you pay for a higher tier, then you get your name read on the podcast, like our executive producers, including Nick Johnston, Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, Andrew Slosky, sudo usermod -a-G root bunny crimes, Just Weege, Joel Krauska, Twinkie and the Deck of Theseus, David Allen, and James Kamek. Thank you also so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, and if you don't, and look, if you don't want to subscribe, if you don't want to, if you can't pay, you don't want to pay, that's fine. We get it too. Yeah. Enjoy the show. Yeah. Maybe think about leaving an iTunes review.
Yeah,
that's helpful for us.
That helps.
People, we like that. It's good. And as always, I'm going to leave reminding you to open up Steam and review your favorite indie games, because if you've bought a game and you've played it and you liked it, that's the kindest thing you could do for those developers. It is hard to get a game noticed out there in 2023. So
are those valuable algorithmically as well as word of mouth? Like, does that help things surface?
If you have better Steam reviews, you get promoted more on the front page of Steam during things like Steam sales.
Good to know.
Leaving positive game reviews on games that you've purchased and or played, very important.
Wish listing is also valuable from that perspective, right? Doesn't that also float things up?
Wish listing is great right up until the moment the game is available to purchase.
Obviously, once it's out, less valuable.
Yeah, once it's out, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But before then, yeah, wish listing is very important for pre-release stuff. So you go wish list Little Kitty Big City and whatever else you're excited about playing next year, and review the last 5 games you played. Don't worry about Call of Duty. They're fine. But if you have a game you love that has like 100 reviews, leave them a review. Helps a ton. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks for spending time with us every week. We appreciate you.